Hello everyone, this is Professor Robert Solis and welcome to this next video lesson. We're going to be talking about Microsoft Access, specifically Access 2010, and I just want to give you an introduction of how to create a relational database using Microsoft Access. Well, the first thing we're going to do after you open up the program is make sure that blank database is selected, and then we're going to enter the name of the database. It's not necessary to include the extension, which in this case is ACCDB. I'm going to select this entire file name, and I'll just type in CSIS Access Database. And then I'll click Create. Alright, so the reason why you have to type in the file name for the Access database is every time you press Enter on the keyboard, that is going to store the information on your hard drive automatically. So we start off with the name of our Access database, as you can see here, CSIS Access Database, and that takes care of that. In Microsoft Access, you can create four things. You can create tables, you can create queries, you can create forms, you can create reports. I just want to concentrate on how to create tables. Tables, as you're going to see, kind of look like Excel spreadsheets. They look like graph paper, but they're not thought of the same way. So the first thing I want to do is this. I'm making sure that table is selected over here. You can see it's selected over here. Actually, I click on it. And what I'm going to do is over here in the Home tab, you'll see the View button. Now, if you click the bottom part of the View button, it's going to give you options such as Data Sheet or Design View. And then if you click the top part of the View button, it just simply toggles between those two. Alright, so I can click the top part of the View button, and that's going to take me into the Design View. But first I have to save this table. Well, I'm going to save this as the Customer table. See, the thing is, let's pretend that we are a company that offers all kinds of straws, knives, forks, spoons, so forth and so on to fast food restaurants. Okay, actually, instead of customer, let me create an employee. Sorry about that, an employee table to keep track of all the employees in our company. And then we're going to create a company table to keep track of all those customers that we service. So I'll click OK, and as you can see, we are now inside of the employee table. Alright, at this point I have to type in what are the field names. The field names you can think of as columns. So I'll definitely want to know the first name of my employee. So I type first name, tab. The data type indicates what type of data we're talking about, I should say. If we're dealing with a bunch of letters, then it would be text. If we're dealing with numbers or date, time, currency, so forth and so on, this indicates the data type for this particular field. Well, obviously the person's first name is made up of a bunch of letters, so we'll select text. We're going to leave the description blank at this time, and I'll just simply click over here to type in last name. Again, that's going to be text. It's already selected, so I'll hit tab and then tab again. What else would I need to know about my employee? Well, I'll definitely need to know their phone number, so I'll put phone number. And then over here, you would think, well, phone number, I'm going to have to select number. Now, intuitively, you might be correct, but in terms of the Access database, it would be better to leave this thing as a text, because then I can use a special input mask specifically for this phone number. Watch this. So we'll leave this thing as text, and then over here I'm going to place my cursor. I'm going to click inside here where it says input mask. Then I see this button with 3 dots on it, so that's the ellipsis. So I'll click that. Now that's going to open up a different dialog. Alright, so when this dialog opens up, it's going to allow me to select a specific mask, but first I have to save the table. Alright, so do I want to save it? Yes. And then the dialog comes in, the input mask wizard. So what this does is it says, what kind of number or data are you going to be entering, and we'll provide the mask for you. For example, for phone number, as I type in the number, so let me type in the number here, 626-914-8853, say for example. So I type this number. Notice I didn't type the parentheses, nor did I type the hyphen. I just simply type the number because the format is taken care of over here in terms of the input mask. If I need to enter a social security number or a zip or whatever it is that I'm trying to enter, these are some of the different input masks that are available. So in this case, I'm going to leave it as phone number. And instead of going from next to next to next, all the different steps within the wizard, I'll just simply click Finish. Okay, so now this field has been set up such that the input mask is going to automatically put parentheses and the hyphen in the appropriate places for this phone number. Okay, so I could keep on going on. I could type in the employee's address, city, state, zip, date of birth, date of hire, so forth and so on. So I think what I'll do is I'll just I'm not going to type in all of those additional fields. I will type in one more field though. I want you to type in SSN. Now SSN is going to represent the employee's social security number. Once again, I'm going to leave this as text. I'm going to go to the input mask. I'm going to click the three dots here, three-dot button, click yes for save, and we're going to set this up with a social security input mask. I'll click finish, and that takes care of this. Now, not everyone may know that SSN stands for social security number, so at this point in the description I will type social security number. Press enter. So as you can see, the description area here is optional. You don't have to have it. Obviously, I shouldn't have to describe what a first name is or a last or a phone number. But for SSN, in this case, I will describe what that is because it may be that someone does not know what that represents. How about this? For the first name field, go ahead and place your cursor right here. So I'll click here for first name. And here we see all the field properties for this particular field. Notice that the field size is reserved at 255 characters. Now that's a lot of characters. In fact, that's probably overkill, and we don't want to have a lot of extra characters because that's going to waste memory. So instead of 255, let's change this to 30. I don't think I have ever seen anyone's first name longer than 30 characters. I'm going to do the same thing for last name, so I'll click over here, double click over here, type in 30, press enter. In terms of the phone number, I certainly don't need 255 characters. So let me see, if I think about the phone number plus the area code, it looks like that's 10 characters. I'll press enter. And then finally for the social security number, so what do we've got? We have a 3, 2, and then 4, so that'd be 5 plus 4, so that's 9 characters. So I'll just simply enter 9 over here for the field size, press enter. All right, so now that I've taken care of all the properties, and there's a whole bunch of other properties that we can take a look at later on when we deal with more advanced aspects of Microsoft Access. So right now, the next thing I need to do is I need to choose one of these special fields to be my primary key field. So that's what that little key over here represents. The primary key field makes sure that there is no redundancy from record to record. So in other words, it guarantees that each record is unique. Well, first name would not be a good field name to make as the primary key because it is possible that within my company of employees, I may have two people with the same first name, and that's a legitimate thing. So first name would not be a good primary key, nor would last name. I'm sure that within a company we have several people with the same last name. How about phone number? Well, that wouldn't be good either because what if we have a couple of cube mates who are using the same phone? So that's not a good way to go. It looks like the only field that's going to provide uniqueness, and that's the idea behind the primary key. When you see primary key, think unique. This is the only field that's going to guarantee that every record is unique. So I select it like this, and then I click primary key. Now you see that little tiny key is saying that the social security number field is the primary key field. Okay, so now we're ready to enter some data. So I'm going to go over here and click the top part of the view button, and I'll click yes for save now. Okay, and now I'm ready to type some data. First of all, I better open up these columns a little bit. Maybe these are a little bit small for some of the first and last names, and as you can see here, I'm just dragging and dropping in between to resize these columns. Okay, I'm going to click over here, and I'll type Robert, tab, Solis, tab. Phone number, let's say that's 626-914-8853, tab. Social security number, 111-111111. Okay, so I'm going to hit 1 on my keyboard. 11111. It doesn't let me enter any more data because remember, we determined how many numbers are going to be allowed in this particular field when we were in the design area. Okay, so at this point I press enter. Now notice that I did not click save. I didn't actually move my mouse over here and click this button, save. I don't have to. Every time I press enter on the keyboard, it automatically is going to write this information to the hard disk. Okay, so let me enter some more records. This is record number 1. This is Robert, I should say, is record number 1. Let's type another record. So Kristen Lynn, and she's at 714-222-2222. Say, for example, her social is all 3s. Press enter. Then we have Joshua, tab, James, and let's say he's 909, and I don't know, I'm just making up stuff here. And his social is a bunch of 5s. Press enter. We have Jackson, tab, James, Jackson Paul, sorry. And let's say his phone number is 310, blah, 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 blah. Okay, social security number, bunch of 7s. Is it possible in my company to have two people, I should say, with the same first and last name? Yeah, it's entirely possible. So it is possible to have another Robert Solis, and maybe they have a different phone number. Okay, so let's just say, what should I say, 626 888 8888, say for example. But the one thing that we know for sure in terms of the difference between this Robert Solis on the top of my database or my table and then at the bottom over here is they have to have a different social security number. See, social security number, if you'll recall, was our primary key field. Watch what happens when I mistakenly type 111111. Okay, that record already exists over here. So I'm going to press enter, and it's not going to let that happen. So over here you can see that in terms of the primary key that I have a duplicate value. I can't do that. Microsoft Access won't let me do that. So that's the great thing about assigning primary keys. It protects the data so that the data entry person is not going to be able to type in redundant data. So I click OK. I'm going to press escape on the keyboard to cancel that insertion of that record. And let me start over again. So I still have that Robert Solis that joined our company, and he's at 626, and I'm just going to blah, 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 blah. And he's 888 8888. See, this is the difference between this Robert Solis and this one. They're two different individuals. So I press enter, and that time it accepts the data. Okay, so as you can see here, entering data is very easy. You just simply type tab, type tab. If you accidentally make a mistake and enter another social security number that has already been entered, since social security number is the primary key field, it's not going to let it happen. These things are called fields. So how many fields do I have? I have 4 fields. These things are called records. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 records. The name of this entire set of data is in a table called employee. All right, so I have created the employee table. Now what I'm going to do is create another table called company. And the company table is going to keep track of all of the different customers that we serve. So Taco Bell, McDonald's, so forth and so on. Well, how do I do that? Click create. Click table. All right, so we click table, and you can see that a new table has been inserted. I'm not going to right click. I'm going to click this table over here, and then if I click the top part of this, it's going to take me into design view. If I click the bottom part, it just simply shows me the different options that I have. Then I'll select design view. Let's save the table name as company, and then I click OK. All right, so at this point, I start typing in those fields for this company table. Well, I definitely need to know the company name. So I'll say company name, tab. I'm going to type in the letter T. Notice that the text data type comes up. I could have easily simply clicked this thing and selected text, but if I type the first letter, one of these options will come up. Text is fine, and then I'm going to hit tab, tab. Let's say that I want to know the contact person. So I'll say contact. That's going to be a text, and what this is going to represent is like maybe the manager or the owner or something like that.